I'm Robin from Strobe Technologies, and welcome to our ITarian webinar on remote control. First of all, before we can do any remote control, we need to actually install a client application on our machine that allows us to list all of our devices. So first what we need to do is log into our ITarian portal, which I've done previously here. Now from here we can go to the tools area of our portal, and from here we will see a couple options for remote control. We have remote control by ITarian. This is what we're going to be using today, and this is what links into your RMM platform. Then there is also ITarian Remote Access, which is a free tool that you can use for a bit like your pay-as-you-go clients, where they install it on their machine, it generates them a code, they give you the code and you gain access. So it's a little bit like TeamViewer and very other similar products that are available. So anyway, back to the version we're going to use, remote control for ITarian. So from here, very simply hit the download button, choose which operating system that you want to download the utility for, and then hit the magic green download to download this. Once it's downloaded, it's a simple next install. So I've already done that on this machine, so I'm going to actually power that up so we can see it. Now I've created a nice shortcut for it. There you go, it is loaded. So if I just grab my login details, oh, there you go. I haven't got that right myself. Oh, that's why. My test account, of course, unfortunately is in the US, not in Europe where I'm based. I have to keep remembering that. Here we go. Right, so I am successfully logged in, and you can see we have some test computers. Unfortunately, they are currently offline as they are grey and with a no entry sign. Now, something you'll like here is if we click to the side, you can see we've got our customer list, and then you've got your subgroups for each customer. Now, it's not very inventive in our test account here for our demos, but in your own MSP environments, you might have customer A, customer B, and under there you might have, instead of a default group, well, you always have default group, sorry, but you might have additional bits, like you might have site 1, site 2. If you have groups for different sites, you might even have groups for different types of devices. So you might even have desktops, laptops. It depends on how your business is orientated. So how to use the software. So in our scenario, you can see here we've clicked the magic little button here, so we can actually bring up our list of customers and groups. So if I wanted, for instance, I could actually click on the default customer. You can see there is no devices in the default customer, so we'll close that filter. We'll open it back up. We'll go under our own customer group, and you'll see there are all these devices available. Now, something you can do, if we get rid of that and go back, now say we had multiple groups, so say you had different sites, for instance, you could turn around and click on that one site and it will display all the devices at that site. So let's and then across the top here you can probably see straight away it tells you where you are and what filters, and if you click, instead of removing it, it does actually tell you where you are. So using the remote tool, other than limiting your view, which we've just gone over, you can of course filter by nice globals at the top here of online devices, offline devices, or everything. Now once you have the device you want to connect to, there are two options via the remote control app. There is a file transfer option, so when you hover over the device, at the end of the device, if it's available, as you can see, for instance, our Mac there, doesn't have remote control abilities. Not sure why. It could be maybe the client is an older client and it's not recognized. This is a test environment, so there will be the odd mistake. So looking at our Windows devices, which you can obviously tell by the Windows logo, we have our file transfer session that we can start, or if we hover across the side, we've got a takeover session, which allows us to remotely access the computer in question. So two really nice tools, and as you can see, as you scroll down, it highlights on the device that you're on. So that is one way we can access and control devices, is via the app natively. The other way, if we jump back to our ITarian portal here, if we go to applications and we go to our RMM section, or if you went to device management, it goes to the same place. It brings you up a device list. From our device list here, you'll see that we've got our various test devices here. Once again, you've got the same drill downs that we had inside the application itself. So let's tick this machine here. You'll notice at the top here, we've got our remote control. We've also got our file transfer. So if I bring back up our remote box here, you'll see here we got our remote control and our file transfer. So both systems mirror each other. Now what would happen if we are online with the machine here? I'd hit remote control. What it would do is say now, oh, you want to load an application, it asks you what app you want to use. It defaultly, because we've got the ITarian app installed, says, I know how to do this, do you want to use me? And we say yes. And as you can see, it tried to do a remote control, but it's failed because the device is not ready, which is obvious as it is currently offline. So even if you're not accessing the system, you can turn around and filter via your web browser or via the desktop app. Now, if this is the big thing that we'll find, if we log out of the desktop app here, and what we'll do is close it as well to make sure it is fully away. If we try that again, you'll notice this time we'll open it. First thing that asks you to do is log in. So I always suggest, if you're doing remote support or anything like that, always have this logged in no matter what. It makes things just that little bit smoother. As you can imagine, if you close it every time and you've got to do this extremely slow login because we all have extremely complicated passwords, it's not going to be fun for your end users waiting on the phone for you to help them. As you can see there, it tried to take over and failed. So the only other way then, just to cover, is for a support ticket. So if you're using the additional service desk sections of ITarian, okay, there you go. As I said, this is a demo account and things don't always happen. This is embarrassing, but oh well. Service desk is down for this account because it's not been used in a while. But basically with service desk, if you have a ticket created using one of the support mechanisms, a lot of the time it will add the actual device name to the ticket that raised the ticket. So if you got an alert that turned around and said there's a hard drive that's running low on space, the device that created the alert will also be added to the ticket. As it's added to the ticket, you can open that ticket and you can click on the device name and it will automatically start a remote session. It's very, very useful, but it's only possible currently if the device raised the ticket via some form of monitor. There are feature requests out there so you can add devices to tickets which obviously then gives you the ability to keep everything a bit more tracked and logged, but currently that is not the case. So that is the basics of accessing remote control. Now, something we'll go over and have a look at is your profiles. Now, this is something that's extremely useful, is what do you want your remote control policies to be? How can people access it? What permissions do you have, etc. So if we go back to applications and RMM, oh, there we go. We don't want to be updating payment details. Okay, so let's go under our configuration templates and let's look at our profiles. So as you can see, we're not very inventive with our profiles here, as it is only a demo account. So if we just look at our Windows main profile here, and if we scroll along the top, you'll notice there is a section called Remote Control. Now you'll see, once again, we've got our two sections, device takeover, file transfer. Now in here, as you can see, we have some various options. And you'll notice I can't edit these because this is the default ITarian profile. But it allows you to see the options at least. So, device takeover, do we allow it, yes or no? Quite simple. And then once device takeover is enabled, you can turn around and actually enable some more states. What I'll do, so we can actually see a few more. Let's create a profile. Let's type something. Right, let's add just the remote control section. To run through the options a little bit more in depth. Right, here we go. So nice and easy. First of all, as you can see, we've got a on-off switch here. It applies to everything. Now, you haven't got many options here because these two currently mirror each other. Now, later on, there might be some additional bits and options here, but currently there is only one option, which is to enable the takeover. Once you've enabled a takeover, you have an option here. You can gain access with no permissions. Now, if you're a MSP and you have contracts with your clients, that just allows you to monitor their systems and access as required, that's probably a very good idea, because they already know there and you're only going to access them when they need you. Ask a user, wait and allow access if they don't answer. Possibly that could be an idea. And then obviously you've got the deny option here. So basically you ask the user, if they don't answer, it won't let you in, it will just say no. So it depends on your types of users. So depending on your business, you might have 3 different policies for different types of clients. Right, a message that appears. So if we click this one here, you can now edit the message. The defaultly is there. It makes it a little bit more friendly, but if you don't want to be writing anything, the default message is not a problem. What information can your end users see? So show a notification when they're being controlled. Being honest with you, I would always recommend that. It's just nice. It allows the end user to know that you successfully connected. It also gives them that option to disable you if you allow it here, of course. So it gives them that knowledge and type of good feeling it's you and not anything else if the mouse suddenly starts moving. Right, the protocol options here. Now, being honest with you, unless you're a really advanced user, you probably will not want to be changing these. They're well configured anyway, but if you've got some extremely tight firewalls, as it says here, you can change them to go through your firewalls. Now, file transfer, a few different options here. Now, once again, as you can see, we've got this apply to all button. It turns everything on and off. But then we can turn around and, well, there you go, that's better. The top one turns everything on and off because it's just the generic file transfer. But as you can see, then if you don't want to be able to turn on particular bits, you can limit what features they've got. So file transfer, basically the ability to read details from your machine and their machine. But that's only to read, as it says here, read only. So if you actually want to be able to download and send the files, you need this one on here. So for instance, you can read and see the files on the remote machine, so you can like see the file structure and the file names, but you can't actually do anything with them. You need this one here to be able to do anything with that particular file. And the bottom one is literally an extension of that. So instead of just sending files and receiving the file so you can look at it locally or whatever else, this one allows you to create, delete, and rename. So when they say create, they mean like create folders and things like that. Now, once again, you then have the permissions section, exactly the same options as what you have with the takeover. Do you just enable it? Do you ask the user? If they don't then respond, automatically give you access? Or do you ask the user? If they don't respond, deny access? And once again, once you get the ask options, you then get the text box, so you can actually be a bit more personal, or you can leave it with the default. And the notifications you get are exactly the same, so you can say, have you got it open? Give them the option to terminate and keep the window open. Once again, notification, it's always nice to the user, but it's not so important on file transfer. So say, for instance, you want to get a log from an application. The end user might not actually need to know. So you might actually just want to tick that, so it's not going to give them a pop-up saying you're taking a file from their machine. It's once again, it's a very personal preference. It also depends really on these options here, because if you're going to enable the transfer without asking, then it might be one of those that this here being unticked is perfect. But if you're asking a user, you then probably want these enabled so they know that you've connected and you're doing the transfers that they've allowed. Once again, it's a bit of a business decision, and knowing type of your clients, if you should be telling them everything, or not telling them, that's the wrong word, sorry, if you should be popping up and informing them. So a lot of things that you might want to do in the background without their knowledge to help them. So these are the policies that you can apply for our two remote control functions, and they're extremely useful. Now, something you can do as well that we won't cover too much in this article is remote control, but for your clients. Now, this is very, very good for allowing remote access to their computers when they're away from the office and things like that. Now, there are some guides on Komodo's website and ITarian's website, and we will look at posting these probably in another video, because there's quite a bit to cover in those, because just a very brief overview. you've got role management here. So if we just go to add a test role, for instance, right, you'll see here that there's various permissions on all sections of the ITarian platform. And obviously one of the main things you're looking at is remote control. So you can enable remote control. You can then say, well, do they want takeover? Do they want file transfer? Basically everything you've just done in the policies. So you've got two sides of it. You've got what can the user access, and then you've got the ability on that machine. So it might be that you've got a user who's got a policy that they can only do remote takeover and they can't do file transfer. But you've got a computer that allows file transfer. Now, as you can imagine, in that scenario, you'll get it so the user is the most restrictive, so that is the policy that's applied. And it's something that will cover more in setting up remote control for end users, because you've got all sorts of other options to do with access scopes and bits like that, along with user lists and groups, etc. So going back to our remote control as the MSP, just as a recap, we have remote control using the direct app. We have remote control using your device list, where you can tick your options and choose remote control, etc. And then you have remote control using service desk via monitored tickets, which unfortunately I can't show you due to that not being enabled for this account. Well, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the webinar, and please check out our website and keep an eye out for up and coming sessions soon. Thank you.